Hey everyone. Yeah, when Trudeau said when he's done with this country, you won't recognize it, Canadians should have been wise enough to take him very serious on that threat, because he's definitely fallen through with it. But apparently, enough of the Canadians in this country liked the road he's taken and gave him another term in office. At minority status, I'll add, but that mostly came as a result of those Western alienated provinces being a huge show of force against the Liberals, whereas the central part of this country, and even, unfortunately, the Atlantic coast, or the Atlantic provinces, chose to keep this guy in power. Keep that in mind, because those people, a lot of them, are potentially your neighbors, your co-workers, or maybe even some of your friends and family members as well. So secretly, they wish to impose this kind of stuff on you. Or at the very least, they definitely support it, because the writing was already on the wall in terms of Trudeau's goals after his first term. Fool me once, right? Headline of the Post-Millennial, Trudeau Minister says government will regulate online media. Again. This being reported by Nico Johnson, February 27th, 2020. So yeah, this isn't the first time this guy has said this thing. He said the exact same thing. What was it, on the interview with Evan Solomon or one of those news media outlets, where he basically said the same thing. Then he was forced to backtrack on it due to the massive political backlash. But as I said even at the time, make no mistake about it, and I got the tweet out there to prove it, is no, this guy's not truly backtracking. They're just going to come up with a different narrative. Or they're going to wait till people are unsuspecting or have pivoted or turned their attention or focused that attention elsewhere, and then they'll slip it in through the back door. Because once they say they want to do something, trust me, they're going to try their damnedest to make that happen. As we've seen time and time again, there's countless examples that the Trudeau Liberals are very devious and will do just about anything to implement their policies. Trudeau's Heritage Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, said on Monday that he would introduce a bill that will follow the recommendations for the registration of internet news sites, according to Blacklock's reporter. This comes despite Guilbeault backtracking earlier this year, saying that he would not license news outlets after the CTV interview where he said he would. Now Guilbeault is trying to do the same thing again. Yeah, you see this tweet here when he was being interviewed. Sorry, it was CPAC. But look at this tweet in this interview, what he said. In Ottawa, Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault clarifies his position on broadcasting and telecom review panels' recommendations. Let me be clear. Our government has no intention to impose licensing requirements on news organizations, nor will we try to regulate news content. Hashtag Canadian Polly. Despite the controversy that Guilbeault created by these comments, he is now attempting again to register news sites. This legislation comes after a report by a cabinet advisory panel where they recommend that the Trudeau government should force news outlets like the Post-Millennial to register with the government. This panel believed news reporting that was accurate, reliable, and trusted news content is in peril. In order to fix this, they believe that a government body, in this case the Radio, Television, and Telecommunications Commission, should monitor outlets. Martin Shields, the Conservative Member of Parliament for Bow River, said that Guilbeault's proposals scare the hell out of me. As they rightfully should, no matter who is saying it. The fact that the government wants to take over and assume complete dominance and control over the news industry under the fascistic model, not to take over the means of production, but just to make sure you have to get your license. You have to get government permission to report the news. And if you got to get government permission or a government license, you better believe that it's going to come with a lot of caveats, a lot of restrictions, and a complete lack of genuine pushback against government. I mean, think about it. Government's the one that's going to have to give you your license. When the government has that much control over the media, I mean, that's the model. That is not just a fascistic model, but that is the model of every tin pot dictator or authoritarian regime in this goddamn world, is to restrict access or the ability to speak freely by the media. That's a complete destruction of freedom of speech or freedom of the press. That's what that represents. Make no mistake about it. It's not a little bit. It's not a minor inconvenience. It's not a minor discrepancy. It's not just bad policy. It is full-on authoritarianism or even totalitarian in its imposition as a means to stifle dissent or destroy freedom of speech, freedom of expression, or freedom of the press in this country. Anyways, folks, I'll place a link to this article in the description of the video below. And I'm very grateful for the post-millennial for staying on top of this article, or this story, I should say, because we definitely want to pay attention to how this is unfolding. You know, it's easy to get distracted. This is the thing, folks. This is what people like myself do, or people that are contributors to things like the post-millennial. There are a multitude of stories every day. And then those stories might even have follow-ups months down the road. Do you know how hard it is and how much work is required to keep on top of all this stuff? Well, you do if you've ever tried doing so yourself. But if you haven't, let me tell you, it requires a tremendous amount of effort and the ability to sort through, archive, and keep in memory these very important issues that affect every single one of us. Like I say, just like I said in my past video, surely doing these kinds of things that I do or the folks at Post Millennial do, surely this has to be worth something to you. It's a thing. Value has to matter. And right now, most of the value that's being placed out there in the Canadian landscape is all being hoarded or sucked up by the connected or the ruling class. And those of us who want to challenge or push back against them, we're left with what? Like I say, these folks have like full-on standing armies, and we're left with what? What? We got to go out in the backyard and grab some sticks and some stones because people are unwilling to support us in any way? Like, I don't know. It's not even just the fact that, like, if I don't get the support, I totally get it. But I think Canada as a whole, right? I think a lot of Canadians, maybe not as a whole, because some will actually benefit from that, right? But I think a substantial portion of the 37 million Canadians are also going to lose as a consequence of my voice being very tiny, right? And I'm one of those ones. It's not just reporting on the news. I'm bringing historical context, philosophy, logic, bold ideas. I'm not just a news reader or a reporter, right? Something that just reproduces. I do a lot. Yeah, like I say, I don't know. Apparently, value is, yeah, it's very subjective. And right now, I guess most Canadians don't see this as valuable. Well, maybe someday. Yeah, probably when it's a little too late, right? Not holding my breath. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to take care of myself and help out as long as I possibly can. But I got to admit, it does get discouraging in times like this. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.